My question to you guys are all part of organizations outside of the academic spectrum. What do you guys have going on right now? If you guys can just take 2 minutes each to just explain a little bit about each program or the highlighted programs that you guys have in your organizations.
The Perez Art Museum Miami, we are focused on thinking about how the arts can facilitate our young people in terms of opening up worldviews and thinking about how they can think more critically. So a few programs. We have a very robust school program. Just to say that we offer free tours to all Miami-Dade County Public School students. So that is a big part of what we feel is how we're kind of embedding ourselves in Miami-Dade's community. But in thinking kind of about after school or out of school hours, we have really thought about our space, our new space on the Bay as part of the community development that's happening in that area. Much of our exhibitions have Miami-based artists or artists of color. We also have a summer program, 1 week art intensive for high school students. That happens at the end of June, the last week of June. It's a free program. These are all free programs where, again, the focus is thinking about how the arts connects to you personally, how you can make these connections and also and kind of open up what your world can look like and change that point of view.
We offer after-school programs at 42 sites. We're serving about 2,000 children right now. Just something to think about. That's 2,000 in a city of a population of 420,000 and growing and fluctuating every hour. And the thought is, where are all those children? So in our after-school programs, we expose children to a variety of different activities. One of our core components is a wellness component where the children are getting active. We've learned that they're not getting that amount much physical activity during the school day, and I know there's a push to change that. So in our program, we're engaging them in about 45 minutes a day of a bona fide curriculum and a benchmark curriculum called Sports, Play, and Active Recreation for Kids. And if you ever want to see that in action and go out and participate, I can tell you that at the end of those 45 minutes, you're going to be tired because I've done it and it's really cool. And then we wrap that around some homework help because we've listened to our parents and that's something that they need. And also, and a key thing is nutrition education. There's a direct correlation between nutrition, grades at school, and also a direct correlation between nutrition and wellness and the physical well-being of our children. Summer camp is our next, probably most active component, and during the course of a summer, we'll register just about 5,000 children. These are 5,000 children that are getting immersed in all types of activities, from the classic field trip where they're going roller skating and movies, but also they're being exposed to the arts. They're getting the socialization and a little bit of education that they may not be getting during the summer. We have a summer reading program. We're engaged heavily with our library system and exposing and taking our kids to the public libraries so that they get a fine balance of education and activity during their summer. Another key component of something that we do is we run 3 child care centers providing low-cost child care for those working parents from infants all the way up to pre-kindergarten. So, I mean, that is something that we're doing to kind of those wraparound services from when a child is born all the way until a fruitful adulthood that we're trying to engage in. I'm gonna finish with one more program that is at the backbone of what we do, and that's the Learn to Swim program. Now we're all wrapped. Miami is surrounded by water. There's pools all over the place, canals, obviously the ocean and the bay. one of the leading causes of death for our children is drowning. If there's one thing that we do, and we do it very well, is put 5,000 children and adults each year through Learn to Swim programs, where it's outcome-based, so they do take a test at the end of the year or at the end of the session, so that they're learning to swim, to be more confident, and obviously to be safe. So,
Great. Cecilia?
thank you.
We are 100% focused on children and youth who live in Liberty City. And just so you know the data, so Liberty City has 624 blocks. There are about 16,000 children between the ages of 0 and 24 years old. And our job as an agency is to get 100% of kids to graduate from college, because the one thing that we know ends poverty is education. And what I have found out in this work, I'm going to make 3 points and give you one solution that we have in place. So what's happening around Miami is that there are phenomenal programs, but they're only reaching certain numbers of kids, or the programs themselves are only serving 100 or 60 kids, right? They're fantastic programs, but we got 16,000 kids in Liberty City that all need to be in a program, right? And so that's one point. The second point is, I see my work, I don't want to be in anywhere that's comfortable for me as an adult. There are neighborhoods in Liberty City where adults say the following: you can't walk in there after dark. So my agency, where we want to be in the middle of it. We want to disrupt that, right? I want to set up shop in the middle of these quote-unquote dangerous places in which children are living. And then I want to do what we all know we must do, right? Because addressing safety issues or addressing concerns of gun violence isn't rocket science, in my opinion. It takes courage, it takes a whole lot of will, and it takes the ability to be there when no one else is going to be there. And the third point is this: we started almost 4 years ago what we call a block-by-block strategy. It has 2 components. One is what I call visual signs of change, right? Like, I know my agenda. I want 100% of kids to go to college and graduate from college, right? But I don't enter with that. I enter with, Commissioner, we got to fix the road. The lighting's bad. There's nowhere to play. There are all these empty lots full of dumping grounds for kids that kids have seen up and down these streets. Hey, there are no trees in this neighborhood. And by the way, if we want to do community building, how come we don't have picnic tables or tree benches or place for people to come and gather, right? So we do a lot of those things. And then the second thing that we do is we intentionally invest in an entire family. And this is what it looks like, right? Throughout the country, we make decisions, particularly about poor Black and brown children, about who makes it and who doesn't make it, right? And we're entering in Liberty City determined that every child that we meet is going to be brilliant, and we must demand the best for that child. And who are we as adults to determine which child gets to make it and which child doesn't get to make it? And that's a very personal thing for me. So we invest in the entire family. So if there's 10 kids, we're going to invest in all 10 kids, and we're going to do everything that you're hearing my colleagues say up here, right? Put them in after-school program. Assign them a counselor. Give them what they need to be successful. Teach them how to swim. Take them to the art museum. But the goal in particularly a place as asset-driven as Liberty City is with all its challenges, we need to enter the conversation with believing that the youth and children in this neighborhood, that as a community in Miami, we must demand for them more, and we must help this community demand more for its children. That's what we're doing in Liberty City, and it's called Miami Children's Initiative. I invite you to come and visit.
Great.
I'm Deborah Spiegelman. I'm the CEO of the Miami Children's Museum. We are located over on Watson Island, and many people don't understand the depth and breadth of where we are and the amount of programming that we do in the community. If we can engage families, not only at the Miami Children's Museum, but out in the community. And we have partnered, we have 2 after-school programs in Liberty City. It's a teeny drop in the bucket of what we're doing and what needs to be done. When children start in a preschool, when children start in a daycare center, they need a rich environment. Children deserve, every child in our community deserves to have the same education, the same enrichment, the same enhancement as children who can come to the Children's Museum. So we're modeling behavior. We bring children to the Children's Museum with their teachers, and we're trying to build a richer curriculum in arts, in music, in literacy. So the teacher is left with what we feel, by documentation, by research, are best practices. Because I think the earlier that we can impact a family unit with literacy, with healthy eating, with nutrition, with good habits, with feeling that they have resources to go and engage with, the more successful we'll be as a community. Thank you.
Amigos for Kids' mission is to prevent child abuse, and in that we focus on what's the most important, which is education. We're talking about prevention. We don't want to hear about the case after it has happened. We want to do everything we possibly can to prevent a child or family being affected by child abuse. So for that, we work with parents throughout the year and are very fortunate to have a fantastic relationship with the Children's Trust that has helped us through many years. And we work with about 150 to 170 families where they voluntarily attend parenting sessions. And today I was at a DCF meeting where they were talking about the importance of parents feeling empathy. And when there is a lack of empathy, there is a proven record that the children very likely may be abused. And we begin to incorporate a lot of different things because it's not just about talking about child abuse prevention. And yes, 4 children die every day in this country as a result of abuse and neglect. And the majority of them, the perpetrator is the parent or both. And the majority of them are under 1 year old. And I don't think that anybody can hear that statistic and disagree with what we are promoting every day, that there's no excuse for child abuse. But it must start with the parents, because if the caretaker is not properly taking care of the children, nothing's ever going to change. So we're handling that through the parenting programs. So that's one component of what we do. We also need to talk to the kids, and the kids need to understand that there are things that happen and it isn't their fault. And we need to help them, and they need to be able to reach out to someone that will help them. And that's a very important message that we get out there, and we talk to kids throughout Miami-Dade County Public Schools in order for them to have the proper tools to be safe when in many cases they're not, and it is at home that they're suffering through these different situations of abuse and neglect. We are excited to be able to expand on that and keep children in a safe environment at all times, because it really becomes, if I tie it back to child abuse prevention, when a child is not able to graduate from high school, we're already placing them on a road that is not going to be as successful as it needs to be. And it is our common responsibility to ensure that. So we're here to do whatever we can to be able to impact the largest number of children in the right ages, so that, yes, from the early ages, but in the teen years, we have to be there during those afternoon hours and provide them a safe haven and something that they will take with them throughout their lives.
I listen to everybody talking. I'm like, where do I fit in on this panel? Well, I'm a product of everything y'all talking about. I'm a product of Dade County Public Schools. I grew up in these same public homes that you're talking about, parks and recreation. That's where I first learned how to play my sports. My first when I decided to take this coaching job, I've been in the Dade County Public School System for 16 years. People might don't know that. My passion is the kids, and just becoming a coach showed me so much with these guys. They have mothers. They don't have strong mothers because they don't have fathers. And they have mothers who are out there trying to do both jobs and don't have that stability in the home to be there for them. So when I look around and I see these guys at practice, they're very needy. And we're trying to build young men. And I want to be that person that direct them in the right path, because a lot of them are very lost and all they know is sports. They wouldn't know how to fill out an application. They wouldn't know how to, and they got kids. They got kids. And to talk about this goals, not guns, when I think about that, I tell them they took the F out of fun and added a G because they don't know how to be kids. They don't know how to be kids because already they already have to fend for themselves. So it's nothing fun. It's a struggle. It's a struggle every day. I wake up it's a struggle. I wake up. Sometimes I don't know whether I'm eating. My mama put me out. My grandma put me out. I go to school. That's the only place I'm going to eat at. But I wish we could get more involvement. And if y'all need help to figure out what the teenagers need to get them involved in the park, call me.
That's a great way to get to the next question. Since you are with these kids, what can all these programs, all these directors do to reach them? You know, we have social media in this, but, you know, kids speak a different language. What do they need in order to take advantage of all this that our community has, in your opinion?
What I've learned, like, even when we're talking to them, a lot of kids into music, they're into fashion, they're into, of course, social media. We need to find a way to use all of that stuff and build a program based on that. If we have a program with a studio in it, where they're engineering their own beats, mixing their own music, learning how to do things that they idolize, because they idolize the rapper. They don't idolize what takes this song to be great. So once we break down everything, who knows? We got to break it down for them.
Kids, you got to give them a reason to believe and a reason to dream, and you got to make immediate things happen for them, right? There's a level of urgency, right? So the kids in Liberty City saw all the fact that they could rent a bike in other parts of Miami, but they didn't have any bikes in Liberty City that they could all share. So they started sharing wheels. We have a bike sharing program in the middle of the projects, doesn't get stolen, and kids get it out for free, and they bring it back every night, right? That was their idea. Another youth in the neighborhood wanted to start a gym. There was no way, there's no place to work out in the neighborhood, so we took a shipping container, we got a bunch of donated equipment, and we take out the gym every day, and then we put it back in, right? So when the kids started seeing that, so now I have youth that are like, Cecilia, there are no dog parks in Liberty City. Don't you have a dog? We have a dog. How come there's no dog park in Liberty City? I was like, what? How come there are no dog parks in Liberty City, right? Like, what, people in Liberty City don't have dogs?
Right.
Don't we deserve a dog park there? But so what happens in the neighborhood is that solutions are in the neighborhood. They're in the youth. So we have youth that are all neighbors to one another. So they're either siblings or they all live on 8 blocks in Liberty City. And they started coming to us and saying, we want a job. And we started calling Burger King and McDonald's and Macy's, and then we're like, they deserve a better internship, something stronger, right? So then we ended up creating an employment program with a training. Every youth, many of them living in public housing, ended up earning $1,500 to $2,000 over the summer. And now we translated that into a youth development program. And every Wednesday night, we do teen talks in the middle of the projects until 8 o'clock at night, the agenda set by the youth. Right?
How many kids do you?
So in the impact zone, there are thousands of children on these 8 blocks. So the youth, there are about 50 youth, 14 to 19-year-old that we've been engaged in. And then there are hundreds of kids, between the ages of 0 and 24 years old. We have a bunch of young adults as well. But to your point, right, is they know what they want.
Right.
They know what they want. What we have been reluctant to do is actually listen and do it. Because some funding requirements want you to have all these results, and they want you to only serve these kids. And that's good. But at times, we have to do right by the children of this community and stop boxing ourselves into these programs that know nothing about what really needs to happen, right? So we have to do a better job as leaders and demanding something different. But that takes us having these kinds of conversations.
One thing I wanted to point out on this idea of teens choosing what they want, or young people choosing what they want, we have tried that this year, and particularly with a group of teens that we have. It's a small group of teens, 15, that are basically helping us program for other teenagers, and they're telling us what exactly that. And we're not. It's specific to the museum, because what we found is that at the art museum, a lot of young people don't feel like they belong there, or that there's a place for them there. And the way that we are getting around that is, or starting to chip away at that kind of barrier, is just to have them tell us how to bring in other teens. And this year we had a sleepover. And I think with many of our organizations, it's like it's listening, but it's also about saying that I'm going to meet you halfway. I'm opening the door for you, and I'm going to help you to kind of get to your dream, or get to what you see this place could be, or what this community could be, or what this museum could be. So I just wanted to add
That's
that.
great. So a teen council.
It's a teen council.
It's a bridge.
Yeah, it's a teen council, and basically they're helping us think of programs. So like I said, the overnight happened. We had a teen talk where they basically they led kind of like a Jerry Springer style panel where they brought up all these controversial issues that they felt were important to their generation. This end of the year programming that I had mentioned that's happening tomorrow and on Saturday, there's a technology conversation that's happening that's led by this teen council, how they want to see technology used in their schools. And then that'll continue next year. We'll work with them over the summer to decide what happens next year. But
Great.
yeah.
Deborah, you wanted to say something?
I think one of our challenges is we have a wonderful volunteer youth program. And many of our volunteers then move on to have their first part-time job at the Miami Children's Museum. And I think it's very empowering. But I'd like to seek your help, Coach, in getting the word out, and, of course, Cecilia, to engaging more children.
This is just a total different universe, especially for those of us in government. And with that being said, we got to go out and get the folks. And there's a lot of different agencies that have the folks. And a lot of the mindset of professionals that are in the park and recreation business is you build it, well, they will come. Give everybody bottled water and pizza, and it's going to fill up, and that's going to solve everybody's problems. And then a week later, you go to a center and it's empty. Well, what was the missing piece? The missing piece is that our skill set, our toolbox, needs to change.
I worked in parks and recreations for about 7 years. How we got the kids to the park? I worked at Olinda Park and Bannerman. I walked to the houses. I knocked on the doors. If you're in the inner city, one thing that people want to feel like, they want to know somebody who know them. They want to feel like everybody know their name. It's like Cheers. Mm-hmm. They feel comfortable.
How do you get that mom who doesn't want to volunteer? I know it's a tough question, but maybe someone has an idea.
You just the same way you try to get this kid's attention, you got to work twice as hard to get the parents' attention, because they're social media junkies just like the kids. You understand? So they're all in the same wavelength. And when we're trying to get these kids to go to school, I ain't selling you no dreams. I can't pay for it. I can't do this. I can't do that. But what I can do is I can set your child up in the right path. Get his grades right. Get him in a situation where he's seen by these people, and he going to have to work to get there.
Right.
So once you give them that real, and I think most people do sugarcoat stuff, and then when you, just like kids, they know when you're telling a lie.
Right.
So the first time you tell a kid something and you can't live up to that, you lose them. So don't sell them no dreams that you can't capitalize on, or you can't whatever, and that's the same thing with the parents. They want to see something done today, right now.
You know what? We're not giving things away for free. We're giving you something. We need a commitment from you. And I found that it worked in terms of, you didn't do this, well, we're not going to do this, with the parents and with the kids. And once they saw that we meant business, where we used to be able to look at our enrollment situation, for example, and say, oh, they're not showing up. Out of 180 days, they're missing 50%. And I would say, if you're not coming, you're not going to come back. And now we can't even use that because they show up.
It's taken a lot of nurturing and engagement, because the children come because, we're dealing with young children. So we have to engage the entire family and encourage the parent and call the parent. We missed your child yesterday. We missed your child for the past 2 days. And it's also knowing and having the level of accountability and making the accountability an important factor in the child being able to stay in a program and making it goal-oriented so the children have the out-of-school program continuing into the summer months. And that's based on the commitment of the entire family and participation.
We lead with a lot of love and compassion because we're dealing with some of the poorest families that we'll ever run into. And oftentimes we put ourselves in their shoes, right? If I was living in what I consider deplorable housing conditions with hundreds of roaches in the home, if I felt beaten down and hopeless, if I myself might have been an abused child, many of these families were at one point children who were never invested in. So we try to take a step back, and we definitely have parents who don't do right, but the majority of the families that we work with, 99.1%, want better for themselves and their children, but they don't know how. So we're not going to let a child go because the mom just refuses to show up because of whatever situation's going on there. And we know what the situation is, right? Because we're intimately involved in these families' lives. But I do want to remind us that when you're living in a stressed community, when you're traumatized and you at times hear gunshots all the time, that does something to you, to your psychic, to your being. And we must, those of us that are in this work, helping to lift people up, have to be reminded of that. Because if it was us in this situation, would we be as resilient? Would we be able to willingly go to all these programs? Because, anyway, so I just wanted to add that to the conversation because it's something that we really think about a lot.
One of the things that I see and attracted me to come and invest my time in the city where I live is that the city of Miami has a policy of subsidizing a lot of these programs to the point where 85% of our children in the after-school and summer camp programs are no fee or very low reduced fee. We live in the fourth or fifth, depending on the study that you read, poorest community in the United States. I said it before and I'll say it again. The safety net that's being provided, can it be used and spread more effectively and efficiently? Absolutely. Because at the end game, we're going to pay for it no matter what. You're going to pay for it at the incarceration end, at the cop end. I am appalled that I see a children's courthouse the size of the new one that we just opened downtown. Why don't we have a community center that size, or why don't we have things around the community, around the city of that size that costs that much money that people can go to? So